I was speaking with one of my clients this week, and in the course of conversation, he said the funniest thing that I have to share that at this talk on Sunday. He said, well, I'm not always right. Well, yeah, I am. Isn't that the way we live? If it's my opinion, I believe it's right. How do we take another perspective? In coaching, opening your mind to new ideas is often the way to solve a problem. So here are just a couple of very practical things that I do with clients when they need to get unstuck. They need to come up with a new way to solve a problem. Sometimes we'll actually switch chairs. We'll talk about something for a while, and it's like we just aren't making any headway, and I'll say, you sit in my chair, I'm going to sit in your chair. And I do this at my office. If I'm stuck on trying to figure out a way to solve a problem, and I just can't come up with a new creative solution, I will just get up off of my chair that I'm sitting at my desk, and I'll go sit in an easy chair in the corner. Physically taking a different perspective sometimes really helps you think differently. A second step in that process, when I switch chairs with a client, sometimes that's all it takes. But sometimes I'll say, now you're sitting in my chair. Think of the problem as if you were me. Put yourself in my shoes and think, how would Diane solve that problem? And it's not to say that I have the right answer. It's just to help you take a different perspective. And that strategy works really well when you're dealing with husbands and wives. I have a client who a husband had one opinion, a wife had another opinion, and it wasn't that one was right or wrong. They were just different. And so I sent them home with this piece of homework. You each need to make a list of 5 reasons why your spouse is absolutely right. Taking a different perspective. It opens your thinking so that you can come up with some creative solutions. So the first is C, let's get clear. The second is O, let's open and think outside the box. On your flag right now, you have the second little colored flag. What might you be required in your life to change your perspective on right now? Think of a situation that's a little bit of a challenge. Maybe you've been stuck. What might you need to open up and think differently about? Give it a one-word label and write it down. It's hard sometimes, yeah. Where do you need to make a change? Okay, and now the third letter is R, and R stands for resiliency. It was October 13th, 2004, and I got a phone call. And it was my husband of 26 years, and he said, there's someone else, and I like her better than you. Talk about knocking me out of balance. Now, I'm not the only woman in the world who's gotten that message from a husband. I hope I'm one of the few that have gotten it over the phone. But I was required at that moment to make a huge change in my life. And resiliency was the biggest lesson that I learned. So over the course of the next 3 years, I got really clear about things like anger. I got so clear I realized that my anger was hatred. My anger was bitterness. And in that place, when I got really clear and identified it, then I could open. And I could say, that's not what I want to live with. And I opened with the help of some professionals and some mentors. I opened to forgiveness. I got really clear about my outcome picture of my life. And I was able to open to the understanding that there's more than one way to live a good life. And I got really clear about my fear of the future. And I realized that that was the worst thing about this. I thought, after 26 years of marriage, I thought I knew exactly what my life was going to look like when I was 80. And when that all changed, wow, that was scary. But when I got clear about my fears, I could open up. And my fear of the future changed into acceptance and gratitude for the present. That's the resiliency that we all have. Human beings, even irate, crazy ex-wives, have the ability to be resilient and bounce back. And the other piece that was so powerful in getting clear was about clarity of my self-worth, getting very clear about who I am, because the messages I was telling myself were, what did I do wrong? When I got really clear about who I was, I could open up to confidence and to moving into being the woman that I really was always designed to be. You have a flag, the third flag. Where in your life have you lived a disappointment that you might need to be resilient and open up about? Write down one word about a disappointment that has come your way in life that you would like to bounce back from. And if you have never lived a disappointment, then you're just not old enough. Every person in life faces disappointments. And the beauty is that we have all of these skills to come back even better than we were before. Okay, and the last letter in CORE is E. It's an E for energy. Be mindful and protective of your energy. Don't accept that you're exhausted. One of my good friends and a great speaker is Greg Risberg, and he does this fabulous bit when he speaks, and he says, "How are you?" And the audience says, "Fine." And then he goes on to explain that fine, the letters in fine stand for frustrated, irritable, neurotic, and exhausted. So if you're fine, I'm sorry. I would like you to get together with your group one last time and ask them how they are. But this time, don't accept fine. Give each other a letter grade. Are you about a B+ today? Are you a C? Okay, find out what your partner's letters grades are. How are you today? You could. Oh. How are you today? A+. Okay, come back together. How many people found that the women in your group were A's or B's? Yeah. And if you were a C or D, now we know how to help. It's good to have a measure that's more concrete. So now I really know about the people that I'm interacting with. The other part about that is that it's good for me to say it out loud. This lovely lady is an A+. Yay. So when you're mindful of your energy, if you give yourself a moment at the beginning of the day to say, how do I feel today? Our energy changes. We don't always have A days. Sometimes we have D days. It's nothing to be worried about. It's just to accept it and give yourself a breather. There are some points about maintaining your energy. And one is where we talked about owning your day, own your whole calendar. Everything on your calendar is something that you said yes to. And for everything you say yes to, that means you said no to something else. So make sure that the things on your calendar are things that you want there. The second thing is to really be kind to yourself. Every now and then, I need a day to stay in my pajamas, watch TV, and take a nap. Not often, but every once in a while. And I feel better after that day. The third thing is to notice the energy that you get from the people in your life. We all have people who are people that build us up, and then there are people who are drains. I don't schedule drains at 8 o'clock in the morning. I schedule the people that I know are just more taxing on my personality. I schedule them for 4. So if you ever make an appointment with me and I put you in at 4, don't take it personally. But know that. And today, you are going to be with 100 women who have all devoted one whole day of their life to learning and to building themselves up. Those are women that you want to be close to. So this is an amazing day to energize. And the last place for energy is to, don't forget, there is a source of energy that's bigger than you. And we have so many different faiths represented here today, but God is there to build you up when other people can't. And don't forget that. So now we've spelled the whole word: core, clarity, openness, resiliency, and energy. On your flag, you have one more thing. I'd like you to write, what's a block to your energy? What keeps you from being 100% energized? Is it a habit? Is it a person? Just write one thing. What might be keeping you from being 100%? Okay, now it's time to get the balloons out. We all have a balloon. Give it a stretch, because I'm going to ask you to blow it up. I'd like you to give one puff of air into that balloon for your clarity. Go ahead, one puff. You have learned about being clear in confusion. Okay, now give a second. That's noisy, aren't you? Now give a second puff. And that's for being open to change. Give it a third puff, and that's for being resilient when you're faced with a disappointment. Give it another one. And give it a fourth puff for being committed to owning your energy and not letting yourself live without being energized. And now just give one more puff for good measure. Okay. Now don't tie your balloon, but I'm confident that you guys can do this with just 2 hands. Take all the flags off and stick them on your balloon. Just anywhere. Because the balloon represents you with a strong core, and the flags represent all of the challenges that you're having to balance in your life. So if it's something that's confusing to you, if it's something where you think you have to change your perspective, if it's a disappointment that you are living with, or if it's a barrier to you being 100% energized, all of those things are the details of life. But look, your balloon, your core is strong enough to handle it. You have plenty of room. You could put so many more problems on that balloon. Hold those balloons up and let's look at how beautiful the room is. And do turn so that you can see how beautiful it is to have all of these unique, different colored cores